I want to talk about some stuff that goes on with the U.S. foreign policy and the stuff the government does that will result in United States becoming extremely isolated and also not too long down the road many American diplomats to get kicked out of many countries, and this has been going on for many years. I just want to note that the last month, within the last month, the Venezuelan government told the Americans to get out. You got 72 hours to leave our country. Then just a day or two ago, the Americans were giving aids, which is like a very aid that's or food stuff or things that are like given, but they have a political meaning or a string attached to it, and kind of showing support for the opposition to Maduro. And it's very strange, as if the U.S. government is itself like a major political party in Venezuela and is making all these decisions. They banned or they stopped giving the money that was due to Venezuela for sale of oil or banking transaction. Instead of giving the money to the government that's in charge, giving it to the opposition. And then they're peddling other friends in Europe to recognize the opposition instead of the government, as if like a foreign government come in and make all these changes and decisions for native people, and it's just like war. It's just like sending planes to bomb a place. It's nothing short of that, and that's not really what the international law or democracy is for. It's not a tool to extensively modify foreign governments. Well, there was a event, like I think this happened like 10 years ago, and the Saudis, or I think they were Wahhabis, they were encouraging the United States to leave Middle East. And like there were complaints, and the Saudis were telling the Americans not to bring all these ships and people that were not Muslim, because the Saudi Arabia itself is a Muslim country. That's where the holy cities are located. So there was some kind of objection, and then there was an effort to like get rid of 19 of the diplomatic missions the United States had in many Arab countries, like I don't know, Jordan or Lebanon or other countries that were Sunni, but however they did not like this presence, this obnoxious foreign presence that comes in. And well, I was talking to a guy, I think he was visiting, he was I won't tell you if he was a diplomat or otherwise, but he was saying that after they made peace, after Jimmy Carter, and then the area Sinai Peninsula was given back to Egypt, then there was all these advisors and overseers from United States and UN that were like stationed, I don't know for what, to make sure that the Egyptians don't suddenly rush the Israelis. As the Israel forces receded, then the Egyptians moved in. But he was saying that he did not like so many foreigners being in their country, and we were talking about that. And he was saying that the Americans have such a huge embassy in I don't know what is it a base or and uh, well then I was listening to the Iranian government. One of the generals was saying that there is so much anti-aircraft batteries all around Iran's borders with Pakistan, Afghanistan, in the southern, that hardly any aircraft can come in without being detected, and if it's unfriendly, it will be shut down. I don't know how many drones and aircraft that belongs to Americans that they're shut down, but also many well, Iran has a cyber force, and many of these databases that Americans or Israelis have, they've been busted into, and like in the last few years, I hear that, for example, the Americans they hire somebody like FBI or CIA, and they kind of try to sneak in and I don't know do this and that, and they get busted right away, and they end up in Iranian jail. Some of these people they've been in jail like 4 or 5 years, but this apprehending, imprisoning Americans that work for the U.S. government, or Israelis that have double citizenship, double nationality, that they come in under a disguise, busting them and putting them in prison. It has been a very uh, successful program, because it cuts back on this obnoxious foreign influence. It's just like being a presence somewhere. This is just the beginning of all the stuff that the U.S. government does that's very annoying. Another thing that they do is they come in and give money to obnoxious little minorities, and then they set them up to make demonstrations, or they cause problems. This is something that the Chinese are also very afraid of. I think many countries are afraid of, including the Russians, that the U.S. Prints all this money and brings it into what they call it like NGO, non-government organizations, and they distribute it or give it to people who are belligerent towards the government, and they create strife within a foreign country. So what the reaction is that the government will crack down and like institute apprehension programs for whites. Then when they cannot bring in the whites or the Americans themselves, they go through other channels, and then in the last 10 years, many Iranians that were born in the United States, but they were really citizens of Iran. They had also gone in there under this disguise, and they were getting busted. The most famous one I remember was this guy. He was a Marine, but his mother was Persian or Iranian, and recently I saw that the FBI he apprehended Marzia, which is like a famous Press TV anchor lady, and I don't know. I think she's kind of forced to stay here because she doesn't want to give up her citizenship. But I think these obnoxious interferences and influences will result in a very unsecure international diplomatic environment, where many governments will tell the U.S. embassies and U.S. diplomats to get the fuck out. We don't want your presence. I mean, I think that the Russians did that. They they exited the American diplomats. I think the number was very large, like 700 diplomats or staff. They were told to leave, and I don't know what the Chinese are doing, or I think the Chinese are arresting some significant Americans or former diplomats, and this has been going on for many years. It's now very newsworthy, and I guess somewhere in the State Department somebody has to deal with it and go and pay off foreign governments to release these people. But looking at the bigger picture, the United States doesn't, or Israel does not have a lot of population, and also because of the stuff they have done in the past, like Star Wars or assassinating foreign scientists, there is a lot of mistrust, and then when they do more, it just makes things a whole lot worse. If there is going to be a World War III, all that United States will have in Middle East or in other parts of the world would be just these scattered bases, and they would just get pummeled, because then the governments that are there, like Iranian government or the Syrian government, they have huge population and huge militaries, and the population also is mistrustful of Western countries. So guess what will happen if the shit hits the fan? These people that are in these bases, or they are scattered, the employees or diplomats, they're gonna become targets, and they're gonna end up in foreign jails, like in Russian or Chinese or Korean or Iranian foreign imprisonment. Well, I talked about this in another video, that there was a psychic, his name was Edgar Casey, and he made some predictions that there would come a time when the safety of many Americans will be in question. Well, there has been other precedents, diplomatic ones. For example, JFK in the invasion of Bay of Pigs in Cuba, one of the reasons he gave for wanting to stop it was because he said that when the United States does not respect international law or international obligations, then it will cascade other nations. They look at that, and then when the U.S. wants to make trade deals, it wants to be friends with foreign countries, then it will have much more difficult time. And this has been going on. I think the U.S. public is so out of it. They don't know how much mistrust towards U.S. Military, U.S. Diplomats, U.S. individuals there exist in foreign countries, and how mindful they should be that this can really blow up in your face. The other one should be a real cause for concern is all the financial fraud and money printing that the United States does. In fact, the US dollar is like a giant fraud machine. I think the Germans, they kind of know about this a lot more, that they don't want to be tied to US dollar or the US central bank being able to easily convert dollar to euro. They have totally corrupted the international monetary system, because there is this one central bank that's really completely insolvent, but is very much able to print en masse to infinity, and then they use the money to to go into Europe or Middle East or anywhere and purchase anything, purchase politicians, have a huge military presence, and shove their presence all across. This is gonna really blow up one of these days. Well, the latest episode with that is what Mnuchin was doing is trying to steal Venezuela's gold, and then when the gold was transported to Russia, then Bolton came out and said, "Oh, we want Venezuela's oil now. We are done with the gold because we can't get it." So all of this is gonna blow up real bad. Well, thank you for being in my YouTube channel, and you know my stuff is research, and also this stuff you really cannot find it elsewhere, because I have the ability to critically think about things. I don't wear those blinders, the national blinders that those pretty blondes in the U.S. media they wear. They look very well, but you know, if you are reading from a script, then you won't get the real truth. Thank you very much.